How's it going, Will? Dave with the Charleston Post and Courier here. Good to see you and hope you're doing well. If you could, how would you describe your personality?
Well, I like to have fun a lot, especially during the games, but competitive when it needs to be, of course. But off the field, it's kind of fun.
John?
Will, did you anticipate when you got to campus having as big of a role your freshman year as you're having right now?
No, not really. I mean, the only thing I can control is my work off the field and during practice and stuff and what I learn. And I really try to dedicate myself and my mind to this game and my now role on the team. Nothing is solidified yet, but I just try to get better every single day, and that's the only thing I can control.
And what do you remember? I think you committed, I think a year after Coach Kingston was hired at South Carolina. What do you remember about that recruiting process and what they told you as they got, into your recruitment and got you on the boat?
Well, something that I did not know that came out later after I committed. I went down to Jupiter with my summer team, the East Cobb Astros, and Coach Couch saw me throw against which the Houston Astros scout team, which had, I think, 3 South Carolina commits. And then Coach Couch talked to my summer ball coach, and I came up here for a camp. And I remember I came and topped 87. And I had a steak dinner the night before, and the waitress said, "You better eat all that steak." And I've never hit 87 before that day. And it felt pretty cool. And so the coaches talked to me after and were like, "We'll give you a phone call. We'll let you know." And my mom and I and my sister were on the way home, and it felt like the longest 3.5 hours because they never called. And then, of course, right when I get home, they call me, and Coach Current gives the offer scholarship, and I was going crazy. And then the next day I committed, and this is home.
You're obviously a guy that entertained some draft looks this year in the shortened draft. Just now that you're on campus and at South Carolina, does it seem like a pretty easy decision to look back on and make now that you're here?
Yes, this was the place. This was the right decision to make, and I think it'll benefit me and my future in the time to come.
Dave?
Sorry about that. Well, coming out of high school, was there ever a consideration that maybe the draft would call and you'd bypass college? I know that things ended up getting kind of screwy with COVID and the draft getting shortened, but before COVID happened, were any major league teams talking to you?
There was some buzz. I mean, I had all the in-homes with all the teams, and it was obviously an honor to have those meetings with them. But, I mean, I really made some good relationships with the area scouts, and I think it'll help me with the 2 years that I have left here, or 3 maybe. But I'm glad I came here. This learning from Coach Mead and Coach Kingston and getting my mind right with Coach Couch, that it will help a lot.
John Will?
Where do you see the biggest improvement in yourself year over year? Where have you become a lot better since you gotten to South Carolina?
I really just think learning the game. I mean, I try to keep my mechanics as fluid as possible, and working with Coach Mead on that helps. And my curveball really in the fall, it wasn't where it needed to be. And now it's getting a little bit better. Sunday it wasn't great, but now I have that feel for it, and just really becoming a more mature man and a better player is where I've seen the development.
Tom?
Well, Coach Kingston just called you a student of the game a couple minutes ago, and I think your summer ball coach told me that you have a notebook you keep with different games that you've pitched or charted. And can you take me through what that is and how does that kind of help you?
Well, I would really like to study it because it's the same game. Like, the game doesn't change, the team does. And you don't play the team, you play the game. Each game you got to get 27 outs, you got to throw 3 strikes, 4 balls, and you got to score more runs to win. And the more you can learn about the game, the more advantage you have than your competition. And that's what I love about it, is just studying it, dedicating myself to it is where I think I'll have the most advantage over the competition. And I like to write the notebook, like just finding every detail and figuring out what I can do to become better than really other people is what I think will separate myself, and what I try to separate from other people is just learning everything about the game.
When you're watching, whether it's you film review of you or another pitcher on the team or even a pro, what are you paying attention to the most as you take notes or jot things down in that notebook?
Their hip movement, really, and then their sequences, their pitch sequences. And that's really all pitching is just figuring out how to beat the batter, not necessarily because I had to figure out how to pitch first before velocity came, because velocity really just got here this spring. And so that's when I would write everything down, is because I had to find another way to beat the batters. It wasn't just throw 95 on the outside corner. It was throwing 89 on the inside, then go and change up inside, then curveball away or fastball away. It's figuring out how Garrett Cole sequences Juan Soto. It's watching the best and learning from the best.
Dave?
Well, just, going back to a few weeks ago when you said you were listening to Miley Cyrus and helping with the translucency of the baseball, was that all you? Was that something that you came to with your teammates? Just where does some of the post-game and pre-game antics come from?
So that was a little bit of my personality. Me and my sister would always watch Hannah Montana. And kind of freshman year, first couple outings, I wanted to get that home feeling back and give the fans a little bit of, tell them who I was, really. And I loved it. And making the speakers play Hoedown Throwdown, it was great. And it really wasn't nervous. And that's how I think I've started to become a little more successful, was because it's not just going out here to play for big SEC program, South Carolina. It's really doing what I can do and showing what I can do with my work.
Colin?
Well, the South Carolina's 2020 recruiting class was obviously pretty heralded, and you guys obviously brought in a heavy group of pitchers in that. What's y'all's relationship like, and where do you feel like you are as a group right now in terms of development and guys that could come in and pitch well in the SEC?
I think we're one of the most close group of pitchers in the country. We always learn from each other, and my best friends are all the pitchers. We do everything together. We talk about everything. If we have a bad outing, we'll talk about why it happened and maybe what we can do differently. And me and Jack Mahoney actually have a thing called LFG Day, and that's the throw day of the week. And it's like we're obviously all competitive and we want to be the best, but it's learning off each other and going off each other's confidence and just trying to win as a team is great.